And in Italy, the country's new right-wing populist interior minister, Matteo Salvini, has prompted a new outcry by saying he wants a census of the Roma community that would lead to non-Italians being deported. After a chorus of criticism, he said his only aim was to protect Roma children. Since Mr. Salvini's League Party came to power this month, in coalition with the anti-establishment Five Star Movement, he's focused heavily on immigration. Last week, he refused to allow a charity ship carrying 629 migrants into Italy. Mr. Salvini has tried to limit the number of migrants entering Italy by blocking charity ships that rescue people off the Libyan coast. Italy has called on the rest of Europe to help shoulder the burden, and the leaders of France and Germany have responded by meeting to begin discussions on the migration crisis. Well, for more on this story, I'm joined now live from our London studios by John Ofei-Ansah, the publisher of Africa Briefing, and who's of course also an African analyst who's followed the migrant story across Europe. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, John. So first, the African migrants, now the Roma. What's behind this latest row?
You see, there's a rise of right-wing, groups, popular movements all across Europe, and it appears it's mirroring what is happening in the U.S. And the Romas are gypsies, and gypsies, are, in fact, are not well regarded, if I could say so, across most of Europe. So they are just grouping, they are regarded as second-class citizens, if I can put it, bluntly. Okay, so they are trying to group this Roma group, with, the migrants or the African migrants from Africa, to prevent, them spreading all over the place. Mm-hmm.
And of course, the real concern, I suppose, to people like you is the question of the fate of those 600-odd migrants on board the Aquarius who were plucked from the sea. I mean, do you know what's happening with them now? What's the latest? Because obviously they hit dry land in Spain, and one presumes that they're being processed at the moment.
Yes, for all I know, the latest I have is that they are still in Valencia, the Spanish port of Valencia. And as you said, they are being processed. And the likelihood of them actually remaining in Spain is very, very high, because the new German interior minister, is taking measures to prevent any migrant processed in one country from, moving on to the other. So it appears those 629 people who landed in Spain, have their fate sealed for them to remain in Spain.
And this is really, you and I were talking about this a couple of days ago, but this is really about the yawning chasm in EU policy, the fact that there is no common functioning agreed way to deal with irregular migration, because once the initial huge wave of migrants slowed, most EU members were quite happy to turn their backs, leaving the frontline Mediterranean countries like Italy to mop up the rest of the mess. Italy, of course, the country that's had to deal with irregular migration since the toppling of Colonel Gaddafi.
Yes, you see, there's a rise of anti-immigration or anti-migration sentiments all across Europe. The Brexit vote in England, was largely fueled by, anti-immigration sentiments, and it's a trend across the whole of Western and even Eastern Europe. So no government would like, to be voted out of power, maybe because of its immigration stance. Angela Merkel, the German chancellor, right, is, skating on thin ice now because of its open door policy, to immigration, allowing more than 1 million migrants, to enter Germany 2 years ago. Okay, and because of the rise in jihadism and so on and so forth, there's a fear across Europe that some jihadists might even pose as genuine refugees, and carry out their terrorist activities within mainland Europe. So the onus has fallen on the fraudulent countries of Italy and Greece, who are now at least are now fed up because they are overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of refugees that they've accommodated. So this is what the crux of the whole matter, causing this rift, among the European countries.
Okay, John Ofei Ansah, the publisher of Africa Briefing, and of course the African Affairs analyst. Thank you very much indeed for joining us from our studios there in London.